Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American horror film from 2020, titled Shortcut. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie opens in the woods, where a boy in a yellow jacket appears injured as he runs for his life. He collapses to his knees in the middle of the forest, breaking down in despair. Somewhere in Britain, 5 teens, Nolan, who is listening to music, Bess, who is drawing, Queenie, Reggie, and Carl, are on a field trip with their bus driver, Joseph. Carl teases Queenie, Nolan seems to like Bess, and Reggie sits in the back, ready to cause trouble. He tries to pick on Nolan by tossing an empty can at him, but the two end up joking about it, which makes Bess smile, and tired of Carl's teasing, Queenie switches seats. Moments later, Carl asks the group a riddle, but before he finishes, Queenie already has the answer, which Reggie mocks. To pass the time, Joseph also gives the teens a riddle involving 7 letters and described as a much-needed virtue. On the road, they encounter a fallen tree blocking their path. Instead of turning back, Joseph decides to take an alternate route, unaware of a body lying nearby. As they continue, the area becomes foggy, and soon, they come across a dead deer. Joseph gets out to move the deer off the road and into the forest, and as he does, he hears a gun click. Inside the bus, Carl is telling a joke that makes the others laugh. Minutes later, Joseph returns, now held at gunpoint by escaped convict Pedro Minghella, whom Carl recognizes from the news. The film then shifts to a few days earlier, showing Carl having lunch with a relative, who is a detective. Carl tells him how he recently saved a girl from bullies, but the man seems not to believe him, and Carl then notices a news article on the table, about Pedro. The detective explains that the police have been searching for Pedro since he escaped from prison. The detective tells Carl that Pedro is known as the tongue eater and is known to target teenagers. Back in the present, Pedro hijacks the bus and demands that everyone follow his orders, and the group has no choice but to comply. As Joseph drives into the evening, Pedro forces them to throw their phones out of the bus so they cannot call for help. Everyone obeys except Reggie, but when Pedro threatens to shoot without hesitation, Reggie hands over his phone. Later, while Pedro is focused on Joseph, the teenagers quietly plan to disarm him. However, when Pedro turns to look at them, they immediately back down. As they continue the ride, they pass a signboard that reads Zona Militaire, and Reggie looks out the back window, trying to figure out where they are. Moments later, they enter a tunnel where the bus suddenly shuts down. Pedro demands to know what happened, and Joseph tells him the bus just stopped working, and the furious Pedro then holds Queenie hostage and forces Joseph to fix it. While Joseph is checking the bus, the remaining teens inside discuss another plan to disarm Pedro, believing he will eventually kill them. Suddenly, the tunnel lights go out, leaving everything in complete darkness except for the bus headlights. They begin to hear strange sounds ahead in the tunnel, so Pedro orders Joseph to investigate. Joseph walks forward with his flashlight and sees something sitting in the middle of the path. As he gets closer, the figure reveals itself to be a monstrous creature. It rises and attacks Joseph, horrifying the teens watching from the bus. To make matters worse, Joseph had the bus keys on him, and Pedro chooses Carl to retrieve them, but Nolan insists on going instead. Before either can act, Bess suddenly steps off the bus to get the keys herself. To her shock, she finds Joseph's lifeless body, but she manages to recover the keys. When she spots the monster nearby, she quickly runs back to the bus and gets inside safely. Shaken, Bess tells the others that Joseph is dead, and Pedro then forces Reggie at gunpoint to try starting the bus, but it still won't start. Fed up, Reggie stood his ground against Pedro, and while Pedro is distracted, Nolan quickly disarms him. Reggie picks up the gun, and Pedro dares Reggie to shoot, but when he is momentarily distracted by a sound, Pedro grabs the gun back. Moments later, the monster's screech echoes through the tunnel, and Pedro goes outside to kill the creature, only for it to sneak up behind him and rip his head off. Terrified that they will all end up dead, Reggie begins to panic, but Nolan tries to calm him, reminding him that panic won't help. Suddenly, the teens are startled when the monster appears again. It looks like a giant insect with sharp teeth and long strands of hair. They are trapped inside the bus as the creature circles, but it eventually moves away. Moments later, the bus lights flicker, and the teens appear covered in blood, but it turns out Reggie was having a nightmare. The creature soon returns, tears out the wiring in the bus, and climbs aboard, leaving the teens terrified. As it approaches, Nolan shines a flashlight at it, and they realize the monster is sensitive to light. Carl manages to get the back door open, and they escape the bus, running deeper into another section of the tunnels. They manage to get far enough from the creature but still find no exit. Eventually, they find a room, where they decide to rest. Nolan and Bess discover that the place is an old military port, and they find a map of the area. Carl comments that they wouldn't be stuck there if Joseph were still alive, and the group grows sad over his death. Reggie shows them a picture of Joseph with his own father, explaining that he had known Joseph for a very long time. Nolan shows the others the map and points out the control room, where the light switch is located. Since they now know the creature is sensitive to light, they need to find a way to turn the tunnel lights back on. Nolan and Bess go to search for the main generator while the other three stay behind. As Nolan and Bess move through the facility, they talk and discover evidence that someone else had known about the creature and attempted to kill it. They also find a corpse lying in a corner. Meanwhile, back in the room, Queenie needs to urinate, so Reggie is asked to escort her. After walking for a while, Queenie finds a spot and Reggie turns away to give her privacy. He tries speaking to her, but when she doesn't respond, he turns around and realizes she has vanished. The creature has taken her. Reggie rushes back to get Carl, and the two go searching, and they eventually find the creature biting into Queenie. They fight it off with their flashlights and manage to rescue her before the wound becomes fatal. The creature then attacks Reggie and nearly kills him, until Nolan and Bess reach the control room and turn the lights back on, driving the creature away. Nolan and Bess discover another room inside the control room, where they find photographs, journals, and numerous drawings revealing someone's obsession with killing the creature. They soon regroup with Reggie, Carl, and the injured Queenie, explaining everything they've learned. Nolan and Bess show them the evidence, which belonged to a man named Giulio Sarpi, revealed to be the boy seen in the film's opening. In 1971, Giulio lost his younger sister Isabella to the monster. He reports the incident to the police, but they can't do anything. 40 years later, Giulio returned back to Tunnel, studying the creature and searching for a way to kill it, only for the beast to eventually find his hiding place and kill him. Nolan then shows Reggie, Queenie and Carl, Giulio's corpse in a corner of the room. Realizing they need to end this themselves, the group devises a plan to lure the creature. Knowing it fears light, they repair Giulio's lighting equipment, which he had intended to use against it, and manage to get it working. Once everything is set, Nolan switches off the tunnel lights, leaving only a red light and a radio playing to draw the creature in. While the teens hide, the creature eventually reaches their position, and when Bess tries to turn on the tunnel lights, the switch jams. Reggie attempts to activate Giulio's lighting equipment, but it fails to turn on. As the creature moves closer to him, Nolan blows a whistle to distract it and quickly retreats to his hiding spot. The creature soon reaches Nolan's hiding spot, but Bess appears and manages to lure it away before running off. She hides with the terrified Queenie, but the creature quickly finds and corners them. Before it can attack, it is distracted once more, giving Nolan the chance to activate the lighting equipment. Carl then grabs hold of the creature long enough for Bess and Queenie to escape. The girls run through the tunnel until they finally reach the exit, which is now daytime, and the sunlight brings them a moment of relief. When they turn back, they see the creature behind them, but it cannot leave the tunnel because of the daylight. As the boys arrive carrying torches, the creature is fully trapped, and with no way to escape, it can only stand as they set it on fire. It writhes and screeches until it collapses, apparently dead, and the group celebrates their victory. The teens walk into town together to get help, and sometime later, they are shown hanging out, closer than ever. In a voiceover, they reveal that they finally solved Joseph's riddle. The answer was courage, the very thing that allowed them to work together and win their freedom. Authorities later arrive at the tunnel to investigate the teen's story, and the detective from before enters with a flashlight, which suddenly goes out. He hears the creature's familiar croaking and rattling noise, and it appears behind him as the screen fades to black. Okay guys, that's all the recap about short 2020. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.